So Pratika, I'd love to get started with your involvement in the Student Press Law Center. How did you become involved?
Yes, so it all started when I was a sophomore in high school. I was working with the Student Press Law Center after experiencing instances of self-censorship in my high school. As I kind of progressed through being editor and editor-in-chief of my paper, I witnessed more instances of students, including myself, self-censoring stories out of fear of backlash or consequences from our administrators. And that's when I learned that this was a problem not just at my high school, but across high schools in my home state of Virginia and across the country. So I reached out to the Student Press Law Center and found out that they were working on initiatives to restore First Amendment protections for student journalists across the country. So I began working on advocacy efforts with them and learned a lot about grassroots organizing. And since then, I've been involved in college as a Student Press Law Center board member, kind of helping move that mission forward and helping other students as well.
That's great. And what is Student Press Freedom Day, and why is it important to spread awareness around it?
So Student Press Freedom Day is a national day of action to show that student journalists are persistent and they're able to cover these really important stories, and they should be able to do so without censorship. So across the country, student journalists are really at the forefront of all the issues that we're facing right now. I mean, they have been for a while during COVID, breaking all the news about what's going on campuses, but amidst mass shootings, amidst climate crises, and attacks on reproductive freedom, I think that college journalists and high school journalists, to an extent, are really covering what's going on in their communities and filling in local news gaps with their surrounding communities as well. So it's really important to raise awareness of the issues that they're facing so we can allow them to continue this coverage and be a really consequential part of filling in local news gaps.
Absolutely. Student journalists are incredibly vital voices, and we're so appreciative of them. And can you tell us a little bit about some of the reasons why student journalists get censored?
There's a lot of different reasons. A lot of it stems down to the administration's perception of what students are reporting. So a lot of it can be optics and the way that the school might look a lot of the times when it comes to issues of sexual assault or even smaller issues about diversity and equity on campus. School administrators may censor student journalists and not want that story to get out there because it may make the school look bad. Other times it's just that they don't think student journalists are mature enough to grapple with these issues that they're covering, or they don't believe that they're covering them adequately, and that can lead to censorship as well.
And how can we help restore student press freedom?
There's a lot of different ways, but the biggest one I would say is a legislative fix. Across the country, there's this movement called New Voices, which is working to restore and protect student journalists' First Amendment freedoms. Currently, 33 states don't have these laws in place, but 17 of them do. So working to make sure that those 33 states get those laws passed, and working with student journalists across the country, supporting them and helping them in their initiative to not only get these laws passed, but to continue reporting without censorship.
And as a student journalist, it can be a precarious field sometimes when you're digging into a tough story. What are some of the rights that student journalists should be aware about when it comes to the stories that they tell?
There's definitely a lot of different components to reporting a story, like you said. I would say knowing your rights when it comes to going to a protest. So I know the Student Press Law Center has protest guides. I think that's been a really big issue lately of student journalists not being able to cover protests or take photos at protests, knowing that you have the right to cover these events, as well as looking at your state and seeing if you have New Voices protection in place. Here in Massachusetts, student journalists do have a New Voices law in place, so they theoretically shouldn't be facing censorship on any stories that they're reporting because there is a law in place to protect them. So student journalists can look up their state and see if it has a New Voices law. If it doesn't, they're welcome to join a coalition within the state to kind of get that law passed to better protect themselves and other student journalists.
And Student Press Freedom Day is actually a national effort. So all across the country, schools and journalists are doing different things. Can you highlight some of the events that are happening locally to honor Student Press Freedom Day on February 22nd?
Yes, so definitely look at the New England First Amendment Coalition. They have events on their website about protecting press freedom and student press freedom, as well as studentpressfreedom.org. There's virtual events so that anyone across the country can join in. Some of them are on data-driven journalism or college journalists and how they're filling in local news gaps. And there's also recorded events on the Student Press Law Center's YouTube or studentpressfreedom.org, where you can look at past events we've done. So I myself led one last week on student press freedom and online harassment with Taylor Lorenz and Sarah Swetlick, where they talked about issues that students are facing online as they report stories.
And how can our viewers learn more about the work going on at Student Press Law Center?
So our viewers can go to splc.org. The Student Press Law Center does have a legal hotline at no cost, so any student journalist out there that may be facing censorship or copyright issues, whatever it may be, they're welcome to contact the hotline and they'll be in touch with SPLC's lawyers. SPLC.org also has a lot of guides, so if a student journalist doesn't know how to cover a certain topic, they can look at their pronoun guide or the protest guide. We also have an AI guide, which is definitely very timely. And if you're not a student journalist, but you just want to support SPLC, you can always donate. We're 100% donation run. So it's really important work that we're doing, and we need everyone's support.
I love that. Pratika Katiyar, board member of the Student Press Law Center in the future of media communications and law. Thank you so much for being here. Truly, truly appreciate your insights.
Thanks for having me, Faith. It was great talking to you.